Welcome back to Up Front. We're talking today with the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, the Janesville Congressman. I want to talk about tax reform. You sound very confident. You say there will be tax reform legislation done by the end of the year. Why are you so confident about that?
I'm confident because we know we have to do this. This is also a very prominent promise we made, but we as Republicans our DNA is wired pretty much the same on this. There are not near the kinds of difference of opinions on this issue like there are other prominent issues, say health care.
The president would go further into debt, and you've got people in your own party who want to have deeper federal program cuts.
This isn't about spending. There are differences, but on tax reform, we basically agree. We've got to get tax rates down as low as possible on all businesses, whether they're a corporation or what we call a pass-through, like a sub-S. We've got to get as much expensing policy as we can, allow businesses to write off the investments in plant and equipment. We've got to go to a territorial system so that businesses can repatriate their foreign earnings back into this country. We need to clean up the individual code so it's simple, consolidate the brackets, let people have a simple system like a postcard form that they can fill out their taxes. And we all agree we need to preserve things like retirement savings, home ownership, charities. So what I just said right there is the basics of tax reform that we already agreed to. Now we're drilling down on those specifics, and our tax writing committees, Ways and Means and Finance, will fill in those details. But we're converging over basically a very common plan, meaning that we agreed to between the House and the Senate and the White House ahead of time. So unlike other bills that you usually see through Congress where you have the House does its thing, the Senate does its thing, and the White House is somewhere in between, we're all getting on the same page ahead of time so that we can march out in the fall and work this bill. All tax laws start in the House Ways and Means Committee and the House of Representatives, and then move it through the process to get done by the end of the year. We haven't done this since 1986. America is losing in global competition when it comes to tax competitiveness. We had the worst tax code in the industrialized world. Johnson Controls, right here in Milwaukee, is now an Irish company with a worldwide tax rate of 12.5%. If they stayed a Milwaukee company, their worldwide tax rate would be 35%. Canadians tax all of their businesses at 15%. In Wisconsin, because of our U.S. tax code, our businesses are being taxed from like 35 to 45%. We're killing ourselves. We're shooting ourselves in the foot. And so because this is such a huge issue for competitiveness and jobs and economic growth and wage growth, we really do believe we'll get this done because we know it's absolutely necessary to get good economic growth in this country.
I know I've watched some interviews and read some interviews with you recently. You seem somewhat frustrated because you believe there are more things getting done in the House than currently are getting done. And they feel like the Russian investigation is sort of sucking all the energy out of the room. But I do have to ask you about that. Is there an urgency to the investigations that are currently underway of the Russian influence in the 2016 election? Is there an urgency to it?
There are interviews going on right now. Our House Intel, I meet with the investigators every couple of weeks. They are interviewing people while we speak. Some of the interviews take time. Some of them have already been done. So that investigation is ongoing right now. Part of the problem, one of the reasons why it takes so time, is we're trying to find out what Russians did. So you don't really have a lot of compliance on that side of the world. How did they mess with our election? Why did they mess with our election? What did they do? How do we prevent it from happening? How do we help our allies? And was there any American involved or complicit with this in any way? That is the investigation that's going on in the House, in the Senate, and at the special counsel. Those things do take some time, but there is a sense of urgency, clearly, and that's actively ongoing. But the point you were making at the beginning is, it's wall-to-wall coverage, Russia, tweets, something else. And when we've been actually putting a lot of things out of the House, we've actually passed more bills out of the House of Representatives in the first 6 months of this presidency, the Trump presidency, than the Clinton presidency, the Obama presidency, and both Bush presidencies. So we've been very, very productive. We've had the biggest increase in border security in 10 years. We had a huge down payment on our military, and we're now in the second round of boosting our military. We have completely overhauled the way the Veterans Administration works. That's in law. We've had 14 regulations that were killing economic growth that are rescinded now. That's in law. We've passed our repeal and replace of the Dodd-Frank bill. We passed our repeal and replace of the health care bill. So we've been actually very, very busy. Opioid and cancer research, all those bills are passed. Those bills are getting funded now. So we've actually been very busy.
So I do want to ask, though, about the recent comments by the president. He does this interview with the New York Times, and he says that he's concerned that the special counsel, that Robert Mueller, is going to be looking at his business dealings. And he thinks that's across the line. It could be a violation. And he certainly left the door open. And his spokesperson, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, left the door open. That possibly could see somebody like Robert Mueller being fired.
Yeah, I obviously don't.
What's your concern?
I really don't think that's in the president's interest whatsoever. I know Bob Mueller. I think Bob Mueller is as straight and narrow as you can shoot. I think he should just be left to do his investigation. That's why he's there.
Do those reports concern you? That kind of talk? Does that?
You know, I think the president just says things like this. It's just his kind of style. I think we should just leave Bob Mueller to do his job with his team. And the way I look at these things is the president obviously gets frustrated, and he expresses that frustration. I think he's also pretty frustrated that that's all the attention that is out there when we're actually making good on a lot of things. But as far as Bob Mueller is concerned, I think we should just let him do his job.
Let me take another break. When we come back, we'll talk about Foxconn, and we'll also have Speaker Ryan respond to some of the criticism from his opponents in 2018, their answer to their charges that he's lost touch with his district. We'll be right back.